empty. Then you kick it up, and now I want to show you all what you deserve. And know we got so much to learn. And just like when we said I do, and it's only you that can do it like that. Yeah. I like it with you. I like it with you. I like it with you. In the sand that we dance, we ain't got no plans. You, I like it with you. Yeah. I like it with you. And the hours will melt all night long. I like it when you close all the curtains, taking up the trash and the burdens. We got all the time, ain't no worries. I like it with you in it. And make me take a little look. Can we finish it? And then get busy getting back into the thick of it, yeah. Take a second, breathe it in, now out again. I'm still understanding just how you do the magic when you look at me. Know what I'm saying? It inside your seat. Oh, and just like when we said I do, and it's only you who could do like that. It's only you who could do like. I like it with you. I like it with you. I like it with you. In the sand that we dance, we ain't got no plans. You, I like it with you.
Alrighty y'all, welcome back to another live stream here on Freedom Tracker. So I spent the morning trying to kind of figure out where we were at and just kind of figuring out, because I've been doing a lot of context switching. So we're working inside of our mock teller service right now. I believe in the last video live stream we got this fetch accounts by access token done, but this is kind of like the least important one of all of these. Really, I need to go ahead and start working on this fetch and persist account details, because this one's going to be the one that whenever we load up the app, like in mocks, it's actually going to go ahead and do something for us. Because right now I tried to load into the mocks and it basically just crashed because we don't actually have any data in there. So we need to go ahead and deal with that. So right now what I think we have going on is inside of our global context, we're working on more or less refactoring this so that this is kind of like a global like service provider and just global state in general. So we'll probably get rid of this like fetch user from database and put it inside of like a user service, for example. We'll keep like data store, we'll keep user, and really data store probably doesn't need to be used. The only reason I put data store in here is because I didn't want to have to use the whatever it's called in here, this every single place we want to use a database. That's why data store is here. And then like we have like a global loading and some errors and stuff like that. So that's kind of what's going on with this. We'll probably get rid of this and then update loading state and user state, stuff like that. That'll probably also be fixed or changed at one point. So like here, this is all going to get changed slightly. So like here, we'll put this inside of its own service and then kind of go from there. But the idea here is we're going to have these lists of services where it kind of acts like a singleton. I don't think it's going to be an actual singleton just because of the way hooks work. Maybe it is because this is the provider and I'm assuming we only get one instances. I don't know. But basically what we're doing is instead of having if mocking all over our application, we're going to just have if mocking basically inside here. If we want to, we could have done like a teller service interface and then like a teller service implementation and then a mock service implementation and then add like teller service or something and like did it that way. But this is probably fine as well. Either way, I'm just going to condense it into here. This is going to be our provider for the entire application. So that's why I'm putting it in here. So basically it's checking to see if we have a teller service set up yet. If we don't, we're going to check if we're mocking. If we do have a teller service already, we'll go ahead and just return it basically. Otherwise, we'll create it, so on and so forth. So right now, the teller service is just like our normal teller service. This is what we've already had. So no big deal here. And it doesn't have to be a hook anymore because we're not like pulling anything in. And we're passing the data store and then any user to it. So that is fine. I'm a little bit concerned about the user not working, but I think it's probably also okay. And then here is where we're doing this data. So basically what we need to go ahead and do is deal with this fetch and persist account details. That way we can actually load into the account. And then we can deal with like persist connection and stuff like that later. But if we come into our teller service, it says fetch and persist account details. This is kind of like the big one. This is the one that actually does all of the work, maps the transactions, and all of this stuff. Also, we are going to do some work inside of this because I realized that I goofed up, and the way that tellers, whatever they are, the teller transaction API works is not comprehensive as what I thought it'd be. So basically what happens is if you fetch from a transaction ID, it actually gets all of the ones older than said ID instead of all the ones newer. So what you actually have to do is you have to fetch by date, and then you have to basically check to see which ones you have, but it still narrows it down by date at least. So like we can say like all of the ones that have a transaction date before this or after this basically, or on this, whatever. And then it'll go ahead and get those new ones, so on and so forth. That's something we're going to look into, but that's going to be after we get the mocking setup. So I'm going to go ahead and like copy this and just see what's going down here and see what we're doing with this. And then there might be some stuff we can refactor or bring into like a util or something. Because like this account details map, although we don't need to deal with the data store, so that's actually fine. And then let's see what else we have here. So persistent accounts, for each one, push the accounts to an array. And then let's see here. We go through each transaction and then return a transaction schema transaction object, I'm assuming. I can't tell what this actually is. All transactions, schema transaction, we persist them. Yeah, I'm assuming this is a schema transaction here. So this is getting our transactions for us. Transactions to persist, yeah, and I'm assuming this is the new transaction type that we created. And that's fine. And then we just return this. We do update, so like we could probably skip a step and turn this straight into global user transaction as well. So let's just copy this and start moving some stuff around. I think we might have to play around with this mock data provider a little bit. So I think our connections are fine. Our accounts, I think, are okay. I just need to look into that. And I don't know which accounts these are. Like these are the mock accounts.accounts. And that's from accounts.json. I think that only has like one account in it, if I remember properly. And I think, well, actually it probably has 3 accounts in it, right? So that's probably fine. So yeah, we just need to play around with this and massage the data and stuff like that and kind of see what's going down. But let's go ahead and hop back into here, back into our mock teller service. And I'm going to add some comments here. And paste this guy in and then comment it out. And we're going to start bringing some data in. Okay. So basically what we got going on here is we have a try catch and we try to fetch the account details. Okay, and here we get any updated accounts with the balance info and this. So this one I think is just going to be accounts, possibly. Then we want to pass in an accounts details request. I don't remember what the accounts details request looks like. Let's take a look at what the accounts details request looks like. Come into our types and our teller types. Account details request. This has an account ID. That's the actual return. Where's the account details request at? Okay, so it takes in the account ID, the access token, and a possible transaction ID. And that's an array of these. Whoops. Let's just, I know this is the point of TypeScript, but okay, so this guy's gonna take in, and let's say this. Oops. Paste that way. Okay. So we have these guys. So our account access token is going to be a list of this. There we go. A list of account ID, access token, and a possible transaction ID. We can ignore the transaction ID for this one because we're not going to like reload transactions or anything in the mock mode. So we want to get, this one says account details. So this is like, I think we want to fetch this from our account. So accounts, yeah, so this is going to come from our accounts. So we go to our mock data provider. We have our regular account setup. So we have connections. accounts right now is just a map where we have mock account and then whatever. So I think what we could do is here, we can just come into our mock teller service and we can literally just say const accounts is equal to, and I don't like that I called this accounts. Let's actually do this just to clean this up a little bit. I don't want to call this account. I'm going to call this account details request. So now we're going to say const accounts is equal to account details request dot map each account, and we're going to return, and then here we can say just return an object for now, so we mad at us obviously, and this is going to be a schema.account array. We mad at us obviously because this isn't returning an account. I believe that's what this is supposed to be. I think that's what this is supposed to return. We take a look at our fetch and persist account info response in our teller types. This is a schema account array. Yes, okay, that's what I thought. So back in our mock data provider, this, if we just go ahead and grab accounts, that's going to go ahead and return us a map. So we can just go ahead and try to get each one of these. So basically we can say, and do I have accounts in here, or do I need to import that? So we don't. Let's grab accounts. I'd rather this be here. I'd rather this be in alphabetical order, but it is what it is. So then what we can basically do is, for this part, we can go ahead and say counts. I'm actually going to say A here because I don't want this to get confused. And we'll say return A accounts dot ooh. Let's go ahead and say fetched accounts, I guess, is equal to accounts.get, and then we're going to go and say a.get. I think we want account ID. And then what's this problem? Type ID string institution. So account details map. That should get us. Why is that an issue? Or is it fine now? Let's console.log fetched accounts. And I'm going to. It's going to crash the app, and that's fine. I'm going to run it in mock. Okay, hit freedom tracker. Gonna crash the app because we're not fetching anything properly. Okay, so cannot read properly undefined name is what I expected. It's not hitting this. Fetch user at startup. I don't think we're getting to that point actually. I think we're failing at use global context, user, although we should still be getting the user. If we go into, let's see here, our components, unless, let's see here, splash screen controller. So we are doing this. We're hitting init this, calling fetch user from database, and we're passing in mocking. We go to fetch user from database inside of a global context. Fetch user from database should still be running. So if mocking set user to fetch mock user, and we haven't touched that. Although, you know what? We might have an issue here because of the way that we're mapping in the data provider now. Because if we go into our mock service, oh wait, we're not even using this anymore, so this should be fine. This should be fine still. Although I think we might have changed. Let's just do this. I think maybe this is broken now because of the way that we're mapping a couple things. Let's just return. Let's just make some changes here. This isn't gonna work. The thing is, we changed some stuff. How the data was set up, so I think it's broken because of that. Okay, I don't care about this issue. I don't know why mocked accounts is mad at us in that situation, to be honest. Okay, now what's the issue? Last 4. Did this at least get anywhere? Fetch user at startup. It's not hitting what I want it to hit. Index.tsx. Then this might not be inside the transaction card. Okay, now it's breaking inside the index.tsx. Just trying to get the app loading so I can kind of see what data is coming through. It'll be this index.tsx. So let's see. Still have the use mock service open. So this is kind of a mess right now, but we'll kind of clean all this up. And the thing is, if we're using the get teller service on these, that might also be part of the problem. Trying to trace what's actually happening here. Because what should be happening, I'm assuming we're getting a user. Let's see. I kind of want to do this. And that. Okay, now it says welcome, Ethan. Cool. So, load user account info, deal with mocking stuff, request body is empty. So if we come back in here, where is that request body getting printed at? In layout. Okay. That's what I was expecting. Okay. So if mocking, deal with mocking stuff, request body. And then we have our fetch and persist account details. So here, we want to update this. I don't know why our account, oh, it's because we haven't loaded in the other thing yet. So I think we're going to need to make the user service first to load that in. Not really what I want to do first, but I think we're gonna have to. So let's create a user service. So I would go into our services, go ahead and say user slash user service.tsx or ts, and we'll go ahead and say mock user service.ts. Okay, and then this right now only has like one thing in it, so I'm wondering if instead of like, this is maybe kind of counterintuitive, but I'm wondering if instead of grabbing, returning, the user can stay here, but I'm wondering instead of passing back this update user state, we move this into whatever it's called, right? We move it into the other thing, and then we have a callback function to deal with that inside our global context. Either that, or yeah, I think we have to do it that way, because I think if we put it inside the user service, it won't actually work properly. I think we do one in there, but I'm wondering if instead of, so let's do this. So we're going to do this. So our user service, go ahead and say, how do we deal with the color one? Is it a default? It is, okay. So our user service is going to say export default function user service. This will take in the data store type any. I don't know that we need the user, but I will go ahead and pass in update user function. It'll take in a user of type global user, and maybe that should be a question mark. We'll pass that back, and what's mad? I don't know why that's mad at us. Maybe this needs to be equal to this, and this will be an arrow function that returns void. And then now what's mad at us? Export default function. Why am I stupid? Export default function. Do I have a constant here? Why is this mad? User service. What am I doing wrong? Why am I stupid? Kind of doing the same idea here. Figure out what's going down with this. I must have spelled something wrong. I spelled something wrong somewhere. But anyway, maybe it was function. So we're still going to pass in this data store, but this is going to pass in an update user function. And this will be an arrow function that'll take in a user question mark. There's a global user and return void. Ooh, it's a function that it doesn't like. Doesn't like the callback function. Maybe I just do this. I think it's because of this. We want to do it like this. This? No. What if we just do this? No. Why am I stupid? might just have to make this a type to get this to work properly. Because why is this not wanting to work? I'm just gonna do this type user service, and what do I want to call this? User service parameters equal to data store any, and then update user. And take in a user, which is a global user, and return void. And then we'll just do this, I guess, since it wants to be difficult. Props, and this will be a user service parameters, and we'll say const and data store and update user is equal to props, maybe. There. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I guess I'm just stupid. Let's see if I try to do it this way, if it wants to work. Let's get rid of this, because I want the inputs are probably going to be slightly different, because we don't need the data store for the other one. Data store update user. Global user. Okay. Now we're fine? Sick. Okay. Just had to fail a few times. So now we're going to have a... I'm just going to do like a very simple const get user. And I don't think this needs to take anything. And a const set user. And this will go ahead and just take in a user question mark global user. And I think we can set that to undefined. And then we'll return our get user and set user. It'll be like dead simple function here. So then what we'd go ahead and do is we have our data, we have access to our data store, and our, yeah, and global user is under, global user is fine there, or it can be undefined, so that's fine. So basically what we'd do here is instead of const fetch user from database here, we would take in, this would be get user, but let's go ahead and take this. The only thing is we probably would want to set our loading to true, but I think that's something we could probably do. That can be something we can do in the global state, which makes me think maybe we should just keep I'm torn. Maybe we should just keep, like, maybe we should keep our update user state, but what we should do is in our user service, we don't need to pass in this update user. And we don't need a set user state, we'll just have a get user. But this will go ahead and return a global context user. This will go ahead and just return a global user. And we might, you know, we might go ahead and update this later on. This is just to clean things up a bit. So now in our global context, we literally take this bit And I don't know what we're going to do about loading, but it is what it is. We'll kind of deal with that later. Basically, we take this guy. I mean, we could probably pass. If we wanted to pass stuff, we could. Like, we could set up a type for global reducers. For like set loading, set load user, set loading, all of that stuff. If we wanted to, so like we could come into our types, services, and we can set up like a export interface and call it we'll call it export interface, and then this will go ahead and be global context reducers equal to not equal to, but then our global context reducers will go ahead and be, if we come in here, global context. So this will be like our update user state, update loading state. Like so. Come into here. Services. So this would be this. Literally pass the same exact things. And then we can also go ahead and have an update user error. And this will be error boolean void, and we can also return that. So we go back into our global context. We can also go ahead and say update user error. There's an error and boolean, and then set this as a void. We mad at us, and I think that's what we called it. It's actually called load user error. Set update. Well, we want to call this set user state. The question is this: do we want to call it that? Because this is kind of like, yeah, let's do that. That's fine. So we'll keep it as update user error. I'm gonna call it update load user error, and then we're gonna reorder this. So like now we have update loading state. We're gonna go ahead and kind of put it here, right? And then we'll have update load user error. Whoops. Const update load user error is equal to, whoops, use state, not use state, is equal to this, say error, and then boolean, and then set load user error to the error, and then we'll do the same thing, update user state. And we'll see if we actually end up needing to, like, the thing is, we might not even need to export these. We might be able to get rid of them here. So I'm thinking maybe we do get rid of them here. This is going to break some things. Like, I'm thinking maybe we get rid of them here. Right? And it's going to break a bunch of stuff. That's fine for now. And get rid of them here. So if we get rid of them down here, like that. Okay. Again, it's going to be mad at us. But now what we do is inside of our user service, this is going to take in the global store. it's also going to go ahead and take in our global reducers. Whoops, global reducers, if I could type, which is a global context reducer type. And then we can get the ones that we want out of here. So like we want const update update loading, update load user error, and update user equal to use or is equal to our global reducers, like so. And let's see here. Let's see what I did wrong here. Update user came back properly, but this one did not. Oh, it's called update user state. Okay, and then update loading state. So now we come back in here to our user service. This is update loading state and update user state. So we're just not using them right now. And then what we would do is this. So we need to bring this stuff into our other service as well, and that's fine. And we want this inside of our mock user service also, but we can also deal with that later. And then I guess we could still like do a set user if we wanted to, if we needed to. Let's go ahead and say const set user again, equal to, and then, whoops, set user equal to, this will take in a user is an optional and global user. There might be some other stuff that we need to do in here. So then we'll go ahead and say, this will go ahead and be set user. Okay, so now what we want to go ahead and do, so I'm doing a lot of circles here. We want to grab our get user from the global context now. Well, actually first we need to say const reducers is of type, whoops, global context reducers equal to, and then we can go ahead and have our update user state, update user error, and update loading state, like so. Actually update load user error. What's the issue? Did I call it slightly differently? Let's see. Come back to our types, update, and then load update, load user error. Now in our global context, that is fine. And then what we can go ahead and do, we have our reducers, and we have our services. Bring this up. Paste it in there. And then we'd have our, we need to create our user service. So if we go ahead and go into our service types, export, and this one needs to go first actually. So export interface I, and this can be after this, or interface I user service. This is going to go ahead and have a get user, which is going to take in a nothing, I believe, because it's going to get the user from the database. And this is going to go ahead and return. I don't know if this needs to be a promise. It might need to be a promise. Promise of type, I think this returns a global user. Okay. And then set user, it's just going to go ahead and take in a user, question mark, of type global user, and return void. That one isn't async or anything. And then what we can do is come back into our user service, and we can say that this user service is going to be of type user by user service, like so. And we can do one of these just to clean it up a little bit. So now we have our interface, which is of type I user service. And this is mad at us because it's not returning a global user. Return, and then we can go ahead and add missing properties. Do that. Okay, why is get user mad at us? Because it's not a promise. Is equal to async global user, and this is whoops async, and this is going to be a promise of type global user. And now it's fine. Okay, and now inside of our global context, what we go ahead and do is we go ahead and say let our user service of type I user service or undefined, undefined, and then we do the same exact thing. Const get user service is equal to a function, and then this is going to return I user service, and we're going to go do one of these. And like if we want to, we could have just had the user service straight up in here, and whenever this loads up, we could have called this instantly. Check to see if there's a user service and then called it kind of like a singleton, but I'm just doing it this way because I don't know, that's the way I did it. But we could we could definitely just return the user service or whatever service. We're gonna go ahead and check to see if user service is equal to undefined. If it is, we're gonna check if mocking. Okay, and then we could probably set this up like as a big factory or something as well, but if we want to refactor it more later, it's whatever. User service is equal to, and we need to actually set this up. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and say user service is equal to user service. Go ahead and bring that in. We need the data store. And then we also need the, what is this called? This is called the reducers. We'll probably want to pass the reducers in to the teller service eventually, but we'll get to that point later. And then here we'll go ahead and return our user service. And like really, we don't even need to return it here. We can just return it here. Right? Because by this point, okay, we do need it here. Return and user service. Otherwise, return user service. And then we need to set up the mock user service. So if we go ahead and come into mock user service, export default function, mock user service. We don't need the data store, but we do need the reducers. The reducers will be our global context reducers. And then here we need a, and this will be an I user service. And then we can go ahead and say const get user is equal to an async function. Excuse me. That doesn't take anything in. I'm gonna go ahead and return a promise, and this will go ahead and be I don't think we actually need to return a promise there. Return an array, return that. Okay, and then we also need a const set user, and this is just going to equal to an arrow function that takes in a user of type global user, one of these. Okay, and then we can go ahead and return our get user and our set user. And this is mad at us once again, because this is going to go ahead and return a promise. Whoops. Promise of type global user. And it's fine. Go ahead and the return is mad at us. This one wasn't mad at us. Copy this. I'm lazy. There we go. And then we can do the same exact thing. Open up our global reducers. Now there's going to be some duplication across these, but it is what it is. We have our reducers. There we go. Cool. So now we can do is come back into our global context, and now we'll go ahead and say our user service is equal to mock user service. Let's just take in the reducers so we can update the user state and stuff. Then let's see, I think we can get rid of this now. I think it was just mad at us because technically could have been undefined, and I think we can clean that up as well. And now what we'll go ahead and do is we will have our get user service. Get, whoops, user service, like a type. And this is going to just return, have nothing, and return an I user service. And then now whenever we need to get the user, we'll call get user service, whatever. And if we need to set the user, we'll do that. Cool. And then now, I know I keep saying that we'll get this done. Let's go ahead and return our user service from here. Now we'll have our get user service like that. Okay, so now we can finally start working on the fetch user from database. So basically, we're going to take this entire function like so, and I'm just going to yoink it, and I'm going to come back into our user service. So in get user, let's do this, and we'll go ahead and do that. Clean this up, paste this in. So now we'll go ahead and set up a try catch and set all of this stuff. And we can literally take this, I guess, and paste that. So now we should have our update. So now instead of set loading, this will be update load user error, and oops, update load user error, and update loading state. So we'll do that. We don't care about mocking because we know we aren't mocking in this situation. We're going to get rid of that. Okay. Then we'll have our const user is equal to datastore.query, our const connections, our counts, our goals, transactions. This, we'll go ahead and do this and this. I'm going to do one of these to clean this up a little bit. Make it look cleaner. We're cleaning up the app here, so that's why I'm just going to go through and do some of this stuff here. Looks fine. This one is fine. So let's go ahead and clean up this one. .select, .from, .order by. Okay. And like if we want to, we could break some of these up as well, but it is what it is. I think that one is fine as well. This one is kind of gross, so I might bring that one down as well, just to kind of get it more in line. Cool. Then we have our promised all, and inside the promised all, we'll do one of these, one of these, one of these, one of these. Clean this up. It looks nicer. Okay. Const this is equal to all of these. Then we'll need to deal with the mocking situation. Okay, so we need to import our schema. Go back into our global context. Go ahead and say, grab like all of this. We only need description and the other one actually. So user service. And this is bad right now, but it'll clean itself up here. Global context. Grab this. And come into our global, not global context, or user service. Let them cook, they say. Okay. So we got all of our data. We need to import this. And it won't let me, so let's go into our global context again. We want our... Where does it even come from? Is this... Should be able to import that. Why is it not letting me import this? Come back into our user service. So let's try to import this. Let's also get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. We need to import global user and global user transaction. Okay. Don't know why this one's mad at us. Let's see. So this is still an async. That is fine. Don't think we need this anymore. So this one, I don't know why this one's mad at us. Equal to persisted transaction map. He implicitly has any type. This is a, I think it's a schema dot transaction. And then open this up. This is a map, so we're gonna do one of these. Clean this up a little bit. Clean this up. So goals is a number array. And this is a schema dot transaction to goals, I believe. Okay, that fixed that. I think this is all fine now. Okay, that cleans that up. And then we check to see if it persisted user. Then instead of set user, we're gonna go ahead and call update user state. With the user. Ooh. This might actually not return anything. I guess we can still return it, right? Like, we can still return said user. So we can say, like, const do I need it though? Probably. We might actually call this a load user instead of get user. I don't think we ever actually like need to return anything from this. I'm gonna call this a load user actually. And it's not gonna return anything. It's just gonna be an async that returns a void. And it's gonna be called load user. And it's gonna be mad at us, that's fine. Might need to be promise of type void. Whoops. And then in our types services, instead of this will be a void. and it's going to be called load user. So just loading the user into the state. And my database is broken now, but that's fine. So now in our global context, we're actually inside of our user service. We'll do all this stuff. We can grab all this data. We'll grab all this data. We'll update the user state. We don't need to return anything. We can delete that. Okay, so why is this broken? Try. Might have an extra if statement. I think I did. Now if we have a persisted user, we'll do this. If we don't persisted user, we probably want to rethrow an error. To be honest. Else we'll throw new error. And we'll say user we'll say unable to load user from database. Catch E, and we'll also set loading. Well, I guess we have set loading to false and to finally. So now this will be update load user error. Like so. That. And then this will be update loading state. Or update loading or something. Yeah, update loading state. And then this will be a load user. And then here, our set user, we can literally just call update user state and pass in the user. Like that. Okay, there's that. Need to run to the restroom really quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and run to the restroom. But now we just need to go ahead and update the mock service. So now this is gonna be called load user. This will be called load user. And this will go ahead and be promise of void. And basically all we're going to go ahead and do is just call the all we'll do is call update user state, and then this will pass in this data here. We need to do some work, obviously, so just call update user state like so. And then we'll just resolve, let's say promise dot resolve or something. And this should be update user state, not update loading state, update user state. And we'll just say promise dot resolve or something, and then void. I don't know if that works. No, whatever. Doesn't need to resolve anything. It's just gonna load the data. We probably don't need these other things. Okay. And then here will be the same thing. Update user state and pass in the user. So this one is kind of duplicated, but it is what it is. Okay, I'm gonna run to the restroom really quick, rewarm my coffee, and then we'll go ahead and start hooking this stuff up. Now let's go ahead and set up our mock. So here inside of load user, we'll go ahead and do is go back to our mock service, and we can do our fetch mock user, and we're gonna need our mock data provider. So let's also go ahead and grab that. So far our mock user service, go ahead and grab that. So const and this is equal to use mock service. I thought it was use mock data provider. How do we, let's see, go into our teller service, double check this. That's just equal to mock data provider. Okay. Go and bring this in. Mock user service. I don't remember what I need from this. We'll see here. So if we go back into our mock service, fetch mock user, we get our transactions and map them, and then pass back a couple other things. So we need the user, we need goals, and we need transactions and accounts. I think accounts were just broken, maybe. Or is it because I don't know why we don't load connections and accounts. Maybe it's because we fetch and persist mock account details in a second later. But that needs account IDs and stuff, so I feel like we should be setting these. So we need transactions, accounts, goals. Guess mock service. We know what we need. We need the user. We need goals. We need connections, accounts, and transactions. And I think these would actually be pretty easy. It should be user.id. And I don't remember what our actual user type looks like. I know we're jumping all over the place right now. But I think our user is dead simple. Yeah, it doesn't have anything in it. I'm going to clean this up. This is annoying the heck out of me that it looks this nasty. Yeah, so this is just empty right now. But that is fine. The nickname would be user.nickname. That's fine. Now goals. What we were doing is this. So if we go into our mock data provider, are we mapping goals properly right now? Or goals, what are we doing with these? Goals are just mock goals.goals as schema.goal. And our goal has random start dates and end dates. This might be an issue later, but it is what it is. We can always update that, so that's probably fine. But I think for this, we can literally just say dot goals, I think. Connections. Then we just want connection 1. And this I think if we go to our mock data provider, I think our connection is getting mapped. Mapped connections. We're getting it by access token. So let's say we should have access token 1 if we come into connections. Yeah, access token _1. So let's fetch that connection. How's it going? Hope you're having a good day or morning. So now in our mock user service, we'll go ahead and say connections.get and get, whoops, not that, get that. And we'll say dot dot dot. Const connection or default maybe. Connection is equal to connections dot get access underscore token underscore 1. I'm assuming it could maybe possibly be undefined. Is that what the issue is? Default connection. I'm assuming it's mad at us because it could be undefined possibly. Let's do this. And then this. This is a schema connection, I think. Let's see. Connections. This shouldn't happen. I'm just gonna do one of these. Have like a blank one, maybe. We'll put this in services, or just throw this in mock user service. I might just throw it in here. Const blank connection is equal to, paste that in, and this will be a schema dot connection. I'll probably need to go ahead and import schema. Yes, I will. Let's go ahead and import that from here because I'm lazy. Bring this in. Okay. So now our blank connection, ID 1, sure. And this could probably be put into like a util or something, but like fallback connection or something. And this is just to appease or make TypeScript happy because I know this exists, but at least it'll have a fallback. So now we can go ahead and say like blank connection or something. Let's see. What now? What is your problem? Shouldn't need to say dot dot dot. Yeah, it's React Native. It's gonna be a budgeting app if I can get it to work. I'm pretty sure this is a schema dot connection array. The thing is, I'm still learning React Native, so what if I say connections dot push default connection? Now it's mad about, oh, let's say connections to persist, maybe. So I'm still learning React Native as I'm building this. So like there's a lot of stuff I'm like refactoring. Default connection is not null. Yeah, I'm assuming it's mad because it thinks it could be undefined, would be my guess. String or null. That's fine. Those are fine. We're going to delete those anyway. It's got to be the issue, right? Like, yeah, there's a lot of learning curves. This should be fine. Okay, I guess we'll just do that. If it's going to be annoying, it's fine. See if we can just ignore this. No, we do need that. Okay. And I'm pretty sure that should be a schema connection. But maybe it's not. We go back into our global context. I'm fairly certain if we go into our global user, yeah, it's a schema connection. That's what I thought. I don't know why it's being mad at me, but we're just gonna massage the data. It's just a TypeScript being TypeScript. And then the same thing for accounts. So const. We're gonna go ahead and call this connection again. Go ahead and call this connection. Const count is equal to counts.get, and then this is going to be account underscore ID underscore 1, I think. We might also need to say or blank count. We need to make the blank, not black, blank account. We'll need to make that const blank account. And honestly, let's get rid of this. Const, and we'll go and say mock connection. Is equal to this. And we'll go ahead and say, whoops, we're gonna do this actually, const connections. I appreciate that follow. Thank you. This will be const connections is a schema dot connection array equal to this. We're gonna get rid of this. This is probably unnecessary. I'm just gonna say if our mock connection exists, we're gonna say connections dot push that mock connection. And honestly, we could just call this connection. Yeah, okay. That's why we called it. So, we'll go ahead and call this as mock connections. Or how do we do this? I think we actually say mock connections. I always forget to do this. That would do it. Now we can go and say mock connections. I always forget to alias in TypeScript for some reason. No, I'm horrible. I'm a horrible programmer. TypeScript alias and destructure. Did I do it backwards? I might have done it backwards. Connections, colon, mock connections. There we go. Except I spelled mock connections wrong. Mock connections, connections, there we go, cool. And then if our connection, we'll go ahead and push that connection. And what did I spell wrong? It exists, so why are we mad at us here? If connections push. I love this. Now what's the problem? We already checked to make sure it exists. comes out of our mock connections. This should be fine. You're fine here. We check to make sure the connection exists. I don't know what the deal is with this. I might have to say as schema.connection, even though is this an array? Let me double check. This might be an array or something silly. This is React Native. Maybe this is coming back as an array. Let's see. Oh, it is an array. Okay. That's why. That makes sense why it's mad at us. So what we'll do instead here in our mock user service, we'll push. So actually, push dot connection actually is what we want. And then we can go ahead and just do connections. That's why that was an array of connections. Okay. That's why that was mad at us, because I was using the wrong thing. And then our account is going to be accounts.get. And I wonder if we can actually get away with connections : dot. I think it's gonna be mad at us though, because it could be undefined. So I think we're just gonna keep this. There's some other ways we could deal with that, but it is what it is. I guess we do the same thing here. Counts. We're gonna need to go ahead and say : mock accounts just to make this so it doesn't conflict. Mock accounts. Accounts equal to would be mock accounts.get accounts. And then this one gonna equal to do this. Const accounts will be a schema.account array equal to an empty array. And then we'll go ahead and say if the account checks out, we'll go ahead and accounts.push, and we'll go ahead and push that account. This one should be a singular account. If we go back into our mock data provider, this one is just a singular account. So that one's not going to break everything like I just broke everything else. Excuse me, hiccups. So now in our mock user service, we are mapping our connections. We're mapping our accounts. Now we need to go ahead and map our transactions. So here we need to get the transactions based on the account. So const, we'll go ahead and say mock transactions. And honestly, this might be better. This will probably better be called as connection map, account map, and transaction map. Oops, transactions, transaction map. Then here, this will be connection map. Kind of makes more sense this way. Be account map. Account map. And then this will go ahead and be const transactions equal to a transact or a schema. I actually want this one to be a global user transaction array equal to an empty array. And then what we're gonna go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and say const count one transactions is equal to, and I don't know that we even need to load the transactions here. This is going to be equal to our transaction map dot get, and I think we get this by count underscore ID underscore one. I need to make sure that this is proper actually. So in our account map, look at our accounts. So it's actually mock account one. So let's go ahead and grab that instead. So mock user service, this should be mock account one. And let's double check our connection map as well. Connections, it is access token one. And then transactions, it's going to be mock underscore account one as well. So if we go into user service, I know I'm jumping all over our mock data provider. Let's make sure that these transactions are actually getting mapped by this. Mock account one, yes, cool. So now we'll go into our mock user service, and really instead of .get, this could actually be the promise account dot ID, but that could be undefined. So I'm just going to cheat. And we'll go ahead and say mock underscore ACC underscore one as well. And then we'll check to see if our count one transactions, like so. And then from here, we need to do the same map we did before. So in our mock service, we have this where we have transactions.map and we do some sorting. So we can do that as well. I don't know why we're not mapping. We also have this date mapped goals. We probably want to deal with that. We need to move this also into our mock data provider. And goals is going to go ahead and be date mapped goals. So it's not broken. I think that's fine though. Okay, and then from here, we want, go back to our mock service. We're going to go ahead and yoink this. And we're going to go back into our mock user service. And if we have account one transactions, we're going to say const. We already have these transactions. So instead, what we can go ahead and do is we can go ahead and say account one transactions dot sort. Oops, account one transactions dot sort. And then we have our global context users is equal to transactions.map, and then we'll do this. We don't have any track goals. Do one of these to clean this up a little bit. Bring our map down there. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and say that our, how do we want to do this? So we might not need a map. We might just push. Like we might say like, we have transactions, but we actually want count one transactions dot for each T. And then we'll go ahead and say transactions dot push, and we'll push dot 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 T comma tracked goals is an empty array. We'll get rid of this part. So now our accounts will go ahead and be accounts. And our transactions will be transactions. Then we can just promise.resolve. And then what we'd want to do is where we actually fetch. So our global context is set up at this point. We can go ahead and get rid of fetch user from database, which is terrifying to me. And get rid of this. Just terrifying. Get rid of this. And now we will get rid of, don't need that. Don't need that. But we do need mocking. Keep that. We got rid of that. We get rid of use mock service. And let's also bring, this stuff should be up here. This database stuff. Bring the database stuff up. Okay. So database stuff will be above mocking. So now we have our user service. We get our user service. And then whenever we hit the splash screen controller, instead of calling this fetch user from database, we'll just have our global context data. And we don't need that. We'll go ahead and say const load user is equal to our we need to get the user service. Oh, cool. Streamlabs crashed. Love to see it. Streaming and recording, if that's still happening. Yes. Let's relaunch the application. Okay. So, okay. Still going, it says. Just make sure. Yes, it is still running. Sick. Okay. So now my Streamlabs crashed right there, so I didn't know if it was still actually recording or not, but it looks like it is. Or streaming, I guess. So now basically what's going to happen is load user is going to equal to our get user service. Like so. And then instead of calling this fetch user from database and pass in mocking, we're just going to call load user here. And just call it like that. And that'll go ahead and should fetch the user. In theory. Theories sometimes don't really come to reality, as y'all probably know if you work in software. But in theory, it should load the user up. So maybe we go into our... We can go into our mock user service for sure. And just take a look at what the user looks like. Or we could do... Let's see. So I don't think this is printing the user. Just a bunch of broken stuff right now. Update loading state. Okay, so this is, we need to fix a bunch of stuff. This is in our layout. Let's go to underscore layout. There's a bunch of broken stuff right now because we deleted a bunch of stuff. So yeah, so like update user state in this. So now we're going to go ahead and get rid of this. I don't know how we're going to deal with that, but we'll probably deal with it like in load user account info or something. Like this will probably be also something we throw into that user service. Get user service. Okay. And for now, we don't have a way to update the user state, so let's just get rid of this. This one we called set user. So let's go ahead and say set user, and we can actually bring in set user from our user service. And there's some stuff that's going to be broken here. I just want to get this so it's not broken. Const and set user is going to equal to use global context. Not use global context. Whoops, I'm sorry. Get user service. Now we have set user, and we can go ahead and set the user to this. Go ahead and hide this. And right now, this is all broken. I don't care. Set user. and then hide this. I don't care about this stuff working. And I think this might be why we don't necessarily care about the transactions. I'm not sure for the accounts. Because, well, we do want the accounts there. So I don't know why mocking we didn't care about the accounts. Let's see, if mocking, or if not mocking, do this. If mocking, I think it's because in the fetch and persist mock account details, we probably do something with that, but I'm not sure. And low user account info, we might move that. I'm not sure. We are like calling some stuff here. So like this, we might just clean up this part where like this gets called in its own function or something. I'm not sure. Like this might go into our teller service. I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm just trying to get the app to load without just breaking everything right now. It's kind of the goal. So that's fine, I think. So what's going down here? Persist node connection. Okay, so this is obviously broken. So get rid of these. Here we can go ahead and do this. Persist new connection account. This will probably be something else that we throw into our transaction or our teller service. Like I want to like really clean this stuff up. We need to set user state again. So go ahead and bring in get user service. So, and then we can say const set user equal to get user service. Okay. I don't know why access token is mad at us, to be completely honest. Now this will go ahead and be called set user. Like this. Paste it in there. Delete that. Okay, I don't know why access token is mad at us. Type string or null. Okay, this is because, is this an if mocking? Let's see here. Wait, where'd that error go? It was literally just right there. Now it disappeared. What the heck? Hello? Guess the error's just gone. Interesting. I don't know where that error went. I don't even know where this error is in here. Okay, I guess. So I don't see the error in here anymore. Not too concerned about this part anyhow. Let's see. Mock teller service, where's the error in here? Oh, we're not even done with mock teller service, so that's fine. I don't even see an error in there either. Okay, so now in theory, let's kind of trace this. So if we go to our mock user service, we can go ahead and be like, okay, console.log. We'll go ahead and say like in the new mock user service, like so. It'd be cool if there's like there probably is like an AOP library or something, but it is what it is. It'd be cool if we could log like with AOP, but it is what it is. So we can go ahead and console.log and go ahead and say connections to connections for user or something. Go ahead and say connections, and then we'll go ahead and say console.log. I also want to make sure all of these are loading properly. account for user. And then here we'll go ahead and do this, say accounts. And then we'll go ahead and say console.log. And then we'll go ahead and say this transactions or transaction size for user. I don't want to, well, yeah, I don't want to map all of them. So we'll just say transactions dot length. If I print all of them, it's going to be a disaster. Console.log. And then maybe we trace through all of that. Like, it would probably be nice to set up like an actual logger in here. And maybe that's something we can do later. And only log in like certain like environments, whatever. And then maybe, so basically what's going to happen, we're going to, in our splash screen controller, we load the user. This is going to open up the index, this index, or this layout maybe? Yeah, so here's our user. So let's console.log the user in the root navigator just to see console.log and do like this. I might need to get up in a second and get my daughter some milk. Root navigator user. Okay. And maybe I should have done it like this. Console.log and then user, just to make sure our user is getting set. And then let's go back into our mock user service. And let's actually do this. And delete this. So we should be able to watch as it updates. Console.log and transactions. Whoops. Transactions.length. Just make sure we have some transactions, because we should have some. Do this and do this, delete this, console.log, and then we'll go ahead and say accounts. Then here we'll go ahead and say this, console.log, and connections. Connections aren't very big. Okay, all right. So now we should be able to watch as all of these go through. So let's close out of this. Let's open up this. I don't know why it console logged all of those. Okay, so probably gonna get hacked by showing my ID. I don't know why it's doing all of the transactions. Oh, it's because it printed the user. Duh. Okay, so load user account info. Root navigator user. What's going on here? I think it hit it twice. So we hit our root navigator user. It's undefined as we expect. We are in the new mock user service. We have our connection, which is an array of one single connection for now. We have the account, which is a primary checking account. We have 67 transaction. That seems fine. This loads. This is fine. And then load account user info. Okay, so why did it not load into the app though? So this is working. This updated the user state, at least it should have. Because whenever we're inside of... Oh, she's moving a little bit. Might need to get up. So load user did work. Loading might not be getting unset. Loading might not be getting updated properly. Because the splash screen's not hiding. So let's see here. Let's go into our underscore layout where this is getting set. Let's also go ahead and say loading colon comma loading. We should have access to loading in here. I don't think loading is getting set properly. So our root navigator user. Where is loading? Loading is true. Okay, so our loading's not getting updated properly. So in our mock user service, we need to also update loading state. Excuse me. To false. Okay, so that should reset the loading state back to false. Try again. Okay, if we hit the freedom tracker, there we go. Okay. That is fine now. Let's go. Let's see here. Let's go back into our underscore layout and let's get rid of this. We can do console.log user ID is user.userid, user.id, and we'll go ahead and say that the nickname, nickname user question mark dot nickname counts user question mark dot accounts. We'll say connections user question mark dot connections, and then we'll say goals user question mark dot goals, and then finally transactions user question mark dot transactions dot length. Okay, we don't need loading in here. Clean this up. If there's like an AOP thing that we can do, that'd be cool. That way we don't have logging all over and we can set up real logging, but no, it's better. So now we have accounts. Interestingly, accounts is empty. We have our connections though. Why is accounts empty? We have an access token and account ID. Let's restart this. Although I see that's a goal actually. Let's restart this. Clear this just to make it there's not as much stuff. Run this. Okay, so let's see here. So we have root navigator accounts undefined, that's fine. A new mock connections, account for user, balance, transactions for users. Why is this getting reset? Is it because, you know what? It might be because of this. Because this fetch and persist mock account details is resetting it. But I think we're fine. So now that we have this done, basically in the next stream, what we need to go ahead and do is update now. We're finally ready to go through and update our teller service fetch and persist account details function. I think come back in here. Come back in here. Now in our request body, we have this. which I think is correct. And what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to clean up this. I'm going to make our mocking a little bit easier to read. So we go into our, what was this? Was this layout? Yeah. So we're going to do this. We're going to say user ID, comma, we're going to delete this, we're going to delete this. We're going to console log each of these. It'll make it look nicer. Nickname, comma, user question mark dot nickname. This is all definitely not needed at this point, but, and then we're going to say console.log counts, comma, and this is going to go ahead and be user question mark dot counts. Actually, I'm going to do connections first. So let's do connections. Connections, user question mark dot connections dot map c dot id, and then go and get rid of connections, and then we'll go ahead and say console.log, and then this will be accounts, and then this will be user question mark dot id, and then user question mark dot accounts actually dot map a dot account ID. Okay, and then we'll do our goals. I just want to clean this up a little bit so it's easier to kind of see. Console.log and goals. At some point I will go through and make like a logging AOP or something. Dot map, and then g dot id, then console.log. Whoops. We'll have our transactions. Transactions will be user.user ID or user question mark dot transactions dot length. And we'll this accidentally deleted that other bit. I know this is a little bit ugly, but I just want it kind of like all lined up for us because the console doesn't print it very well basically. So now we can see connections. One, again, accounts got reset. So what can you do? Transactions are 67. Of course it's 67. Goals, so on and so forth. So now what we need to do next stream on Friday is go through and actually set up the next step, which is whenever our root navigator passes us to underscore layout, it's going to go ahead and call this load user account info. And this load user account info is going to call basically fetch and persist account details. And from here, I'm trying to think, we might be able to basically, trying to think here, we might be able to like, I don't know that we can get async storage, but I'm wondering if we can't move this into the teller. But I'm not sure. Or a user. So I want to clean these up and make these look nicer. So like if I can get this load user account info out of here, that'd be terrific. I'm trying to think about how we could do that. We already have the user. So we actually shouldn't need to do like any of this here. Like we could probably keep this But with our new thing, we probably don't need to do all of this mapping, because our teller service already has access to the user. Yeah, we already have access to the user. So I'm going to make a note in my sticky notes for Freedom Tracker stream, because I context switch so much while I'm off stream that I don't remember what we need to do. We need to refactor the what is this? Refactor the fetch and persist count details for mocks. Okay, and this is on the app /_ layout. Okay, cool. So that should be good. What else do we want to do? I think we might. The thing that sucks is that I can't update the stream to go. Like, I meant to just end the stream abruptly, unfortunately. So that sucks. Let's see. But that's, I think I don't want to get too deep into anything else. We can go ahead and I could probably uncomment the code that I did inside of like whatever the other one was, but yeah, I think we're gonna take we might keep this load user account info function here, and we'll just do this logic here inside of the other one, and then that'll clean that up a lot basically. We can just check for the async storage and then do all of that stuff. So basically what this will end up looking like is we'll have this, comment this out for now. I think from here. So what this is going to look like instead is if we have a user, we'll go ahead and do this. If we have a user and initial boot is equal to true, we'll basically just call the fetch and persist count details. We might not even need to pass anything. You'll probably just fetch and persist account details because we already have the user inside the other one, and if we want to, we could have passed the user, but like we can literally update the fetch and persist account details function to just use the global context basically. This will be like our end goal. End goal, just call fetch and persist count details. Okay, and then refactor fetch and persist count details. So it has the transaction or the body mapping inside it. And we could probably make a utility for mapping the transaction or mapping the body as well. So that's what we'll do. And like we still might even like straight up, like we might even be able to remove the, if we come into our teller service, like depending on what we're using this user for, if we're not using the user anywhere else, like we can probably just pass the user in as a function call to like fetch and persist account details, to be honest. Like, I don't even know what we're using that for. Obviously, right now we're doing this, but like we could do like a util in here where we map the body basically, and then pass the body, get the body inside of this. So like I'm thinking about refactor, so that this takes in the user from global context. Make a util function that maps the user to the account details request object, objects, or array, whatever, and then fetch the data like normal. Okay, so that's going to be what we do in the next video. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here. And I'm hoping to have another Freedom Tracker development log out next Friday, so stay tuned for that. But appreciate you all for stopping by. This has been Ethan, or Encoder. Abrupt stream in today because Streamlabs crashed.